Hello, and welcome to Catching Up with the Royals, the show that never complains, but always explains, with me, Richard Coles.
And me, Emily Andrews. Coming up, we discuss what's really going on behind the scenes as the royal family battle one of their biggest ever scandals. That's right, we're talking Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor in just a bit.
Unthinkable thought for me until now. But do you think this could mean ultimately the end of the monarchy?
The King, Queen Camilla, Prince of Wales have all been heckled recently. The age of deference is now dead, Richard.
Plus, ahead of Valentine's Day, we'll be taking a look at some of the royal family's most enduring relationships.
Well, I suppose Harry managed it with Meghan Markle because he saw her on Instagram. And looking at how exactly one goes about dating a royal.
If a royal does start dating, how long before you, in your professional life, get to hear about it?
We're both back, you from Ireland, me from the UAE, where I have been on the ground covering Prince William in Saudi Arabia, and also Princess Eugenie has been in Qatar. And I thought it's been very interesting seeing in real time how the royals have had to deal with the Andrew allegations this week. For those of you who might have not been across, because it's been so fast moving in politics and royal world, just before William started his 3-day trip to Saudi, his office, Kensington Palace, issued a statement on his and the Princess of Wales's behalf. This was the first time that William and Catherine have ever spoken in the kind of, long-running saga of Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. They said that the Prince and Princess of Wales have been deeply concerned by the continuing revelations. Their thoughts remain focused on the victims. That was on Monday. I did think that was quite unprecedented when Lee, their comms chief, sent it to my phone about like half an hour before the embargo broke, and suddenly everybody wanted, me to appear as a commentator on all the airways. And then, of course, that night, Andrew was referred to Thames Valley Police by the pressure group Republic, and that then rather forced the hand of Buckingham Palace, saying that the King has made clear in words and through unprecedented actions his profound concern at allegations which continue to come to light in respect to Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor's conduct, while the specific claims in question are for Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor to address. If we are approached by Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them, as you would expect. That's pretty big, isn't it?
Two words jumped out at me. One is they are saying the King has taken unprecedented actions, which seems a big offer, right? You wouldn't normally say that, would you? The King has done what the King is minded to do. Unprecedented actions. They recognise the seriousness and the gravity and the uniqueness of this problem. And the other one is continuing revelations in the Prince and Princess of Wales statement. They are making themselves available for further comment if further revelations come, which I suppose they will.
On the ground, though, the journalists were not happy because the journalists felt that William needed to do more. He needed to say something on camera. He needed to start answering.
An interview?
Well, yeah, an interview. And he needed to start saying what he knew and when, as in not him personally, but the institution.
The idea that you could have a one-size-fits-all response to these things, you can't do that anymore. Your grandma might have one thing, but actually there's more and more people thinking, no, we need more than that.
No, and what was interesting was that it didn't stop. So Lee and the team at KP did it to try and get ahead of effectively the elephant in the room. In fact, I even texted him an emoji of an elephant, and he was like, yeah, exactly. But they wanted to get ahead of it, so they felt they had to say something, but didn't stop the questions. It was a British broadcast journalist from GB News who twice shouted at William on the Tuesday, "Sir, have the royal family done enough about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor?" Now, either I don't think William heard, and if he did hear, he just ignored it. But, the King, Queen Camilla, Prince of Wales have all been heckled recently.
Unthinkable thought for me until now. But do you think this could mean ultimately the end of the monarchy?
As you have said, it really does feel that the bastion of the British institution, the government and the royal family. I mean, could Epstein bring down the royal family?
I would have thought that was an unthinkable thought until recently. And if I step back from it, I think no, they've weathered storms before. I'm not sure where this ranks among the storms they've weathered, but it's pretty high. It might get higher. But just lately, I've started to think, it only works if we want it to work. And if the behaviour, the conduct of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Sarah Ferguson, although of course they deny any wrongdoing, as we've said, if that story continues to unfold in the same way, maybe that does make the institution weaker. And the other thing I think about it, if you're Prince William and you're thinking my destiny is that, really? Would there not perhaps be a point when you think, maybe this is not
really what I want to do?
Or what I would want for my kids to do? I don't know.
For me, this week, we almost saw Epstein bring down a British Prime Minister. And I want to separate the institution and the people. So we're talking about the institution for a second. I do feel it's a bit of an existential crisis for the institution because we are seeing a real difference in how the government and how the royal family are treating it. You've got Starmer on the one hand. I mean, he sacked Mandelson, the British ambassador to the US, last autumn. And then you've got the royal family. And the royal family have behaved in quite a different way. There's very little transparency, I would suggest. The king has deprinced Andrew, and he's now a private citizen, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. You've got MPs of every political persuasion saying that, well, he should answer the US, FBI. There's been two lots of attempts from the US authorities to try and question Andrew. That's come to nothing. And you've got MPs saying this isn't right. He should stand up and answer the questions asked of him. And this is a real, for me, sea change in how the government and the civil service that run our government are treating the monarchy. The age of deference is now dead, Richard, because the royals are just like you and I now.
It's the way their comms is working. They're doing something new. Very interesting, two separate but obviously coordinated statements from the Prince and Princess of Wales and from the King. I've just noticed in the one from William and Kate, continuing revelations. Normally they're kind of drawing a line, aren't they? But they're actually opening up the possibility that they're going to have to address continuing allegations. This might get worse, and they're reserving what they're going to do in response to that. What options have they got? What more can they do?
Of course, Andrew denies any wrongdoing. Also, I'm told, Richard, by my sources, that he is in complete denial. He thinks he's one of the victims. He thinks that he's been put upon. I know. For those of you that can't see, if you're listening, Richard's just rolling his eyes. But exactly.
I mean, it's a classic thing, isn't it? It's sort of... It's not just victim blaming, but it's imagining that you are the victim.
I mean, it's the absolute embodiment of entitlement. Here he is,
not taking responsibility for.
He's behaved like a 19th century prince, but he's been caught in the culture and media glare of the 21st century Me Too movement.
I have to say, of course, that he denies all these allegations, and if that's the case, then of course he's entitled to feel victimised.
But if he really does think that he's done nothing wrong. And I know Newsnight is a good example for why he shouldn't do this, then he should absolutely sit down with the US and indeed the UK authorities and tell them everything he knows and saw. But I was quite surprised, actually. Lee sent us all a statement saying this is what the Prince and Princess of Wales, on behalf of them. Personally, Richard, I didn't feel it went far enough.
Right, well, a change of mood, change of tone, because after the break we're going to be looking for Valentine's Day at Liv. Now, question for you in the break. What was the shortest marriage in the history of the British royal family? We'll find out soon. Welcome back to Catching Up with the Royals. We left you with a question, Emily. Which is the shortest royal marriage on record, do you know?
No, I don't.
Well, we have to go back nearly 500 years because it's Anne of Cleves, who was the fourth wife of Henry VIII.
She was.
Do you remember they sent a picture of her over and he said, all right, and then she came over and he described her as a fat Flanders mare.
Yes.
Which is not very flattering.
And I think, wasn't it Hans Holbein was the artist, I think, of the portrait. He'd been sent by Henry to go and take a picture of her. And I bet Henry wished for Instagram then, but he didn't have Instagram because it's the 16th century. And I mean, I can imagine that Hans Holbein got in a bit of trouble because when Anne of Cleves eventually came over, her poor face didn't match the picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, what a difficult commission that would be.
I know.
Can I see what you're doing, Mr. Holbein? Well, if you don't mind, Your Royal Highness, maybe just, Anyway, it was 6 months.
6 months. But I mean, it really kind of reminds you, doesn't it, how marriage for royalty was a really transactional affair. I mean, famously, Henry had 6 wives. And whilst he might have, got rid of overthrowing the Pope for lust with Anne Boleyn, actually quite a few of his marriages were for dynastic purposes.
Yeah, that's why royals were often married off to each other in many times when they were sort of children.
Yes, especially the women.
And also it was a great way of acquiring wealth, wasn't it? I mean, so many Tudor families became enormously wealthy through strategic marriages. And even now, I think aristocrats still factor that stuff in when they're thinking about what they want for their kids.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Advantageous marriages are seen as, because you've got to be able to do it, I guess. And that's why the royal thing's so important. If you think about what you have to do if you are a queen or a princess, if you've got some idea about what's coming, it probably makes for a better choice.
But just because you're an aristocrat, right, does that necessarily mean you're going to do the job any better? Because, I mean, Princess Diana arguably changed the face of modern monarchy, but she almost kind of broke it because she did it in such a different way to her husband, who of course was the heir.
Yeah, no, you wonder, don't you, how it seems not a distant world, the world of a daughter of an earl, say, from the royal family, but actually in some way the royal family is different from everybody else, aren't they? So maybe it was quite a... Although, where did Princess Diana grow up?
Sandringham.
Yeah. So I think, they would have been around it, if not of it. I don't know.
Power couples, modern power couples.
Modern ones.
Yeah, from the royals, what do you reckon?
Oh, well, see,
have you got a favourite?
Well, I do, but it's not one I would offer as an example to emulate, and that would be Edward VIII and Mrs. Simpson.
Oh, really?
Well, it was just
Why?
it was just such a terrible moment in the British monarchy, such a sort of devastating thing that the king had to abdicate to marry the woman he loved. I mean, it was just such a fascinating story and tells us, I think, in a way, created the modern monarchy far more than anything else.
Are you actually telling me you're an incurable romantic then?
No, I'm not. I'm the opposite, in fact. I'm an incurable skeptic, probably. It went off like a depth charge, and the constitutional after effects of that match were hard to overstate. And also, there's something so tragic in a way about them ending up living in Paris and not a king and yet once was a king, not a royal highness and yet a royal highness, and all the bad blood between them and the fact that it meant that George VI had to become George VI. He didn't want to do it. No.
So is that a power couple but an impotent couple?
It's what can... I don't know. The other thing about it, of course, it dazzled the world, didn't it? I mean, when Edward VIII was the Prince of Wales, he was the most eligible bachelor in the world. And
I think he liked the ladies.
I think he liked the ladies. And then the one he ended up with, of course, was the one that cost him his crown. So there's something about that is so... It's like a story, isn't it?
It's like a Greek tragedy. I really like Charles and Camilla because I think that despite everything, Camilla has still retained her sense of humour and she is such a rock. It is actually quite an enduring love story. I mean, their relationship has lasted, I think, 50 years. And, some marriages don't even last, well, like Anna Cleves, don't even last 5 months. And they're very, very sweet with each other.
There is a thing where you do, regardless of anything else, a part of you just thinks, oh, thank goodness if people finally manage to sort themselves out and get happy together.
Yeah. And I think she really does make him happy. I mean, when I've been on tour with them, I remember when I was in New Zealand, he doesn't eat lunch, or he does now, but then for most of his working life, he hasn't eaten lunch.
Not eating lunch?
Yeah, he doesn't eat lunch.
You're a member of the royal family and you don't have lunch. What's the point?
Well, I know. I think it would be very easy as a royal to overeat. Yeah. Everywhere you go, you're being offered tea, you're being offered cake, you're being offered alcohol, you're being offered canapes, you're being offered delicious 3-course Michelin-starred meals. So I think Charles has always been very careful what he eats and therefore he doesn't eat lunch. He does his military exercises every morning to keep fit, like Prince Philip, and then he doesn't eat lunch. But when I've seen them, I mean, sometimes Charles can get a bit grumpy. Sorry, sir. He can get a bit grumpy. And I remember we were flying on a private jet, on a PJ. In a PJ.
Not pyjamas, but private jet.
Not in our pajamas, on a PJ, private jet. And Charles, I can't remember, had we left, timekeeping's very important. And we'd left a bit late, or he was worried about, I can't quite remember now about the time. And I just saw, obviously I was at the back of the plane. It was only a small plane, but I was at the back, obviously, where I should be. They were seats 1A and 1B. And I could just see Camilla, she went over the gangway and was just sort of gently, verbally stroking him. And I spoke to one of their very senior members of staff, and he told me, he said, Emily, she can just sort the boss. They call Charles the boss. She can just sort him and mollify him in a way that no one else can. Few words from her, a little joke, a little bon mot, and she can turn his humour around. And that is so important, I think, both for their public and their personal relationship.
I'm not at all surprised that, you know, royals can be bad-tempered or peevish, because it's just the kind of frustrations of their life must be so awful.
Well, I think actually they love it when things go wrong. And when you sometimes see, I remember at the Braemar Games in the Highlands, there was something went wrong. Someone dropped a caber, or someone...
You should be so careful with those cabers.
You've got to be careful with the cabers.
Yeah.
Someone tossed it wrongly, maybe. And Charles was then Prince of Wales with the Duchess of Cornwall, or the Duchess of Rothesay, as she then was. And they just caught each other's eye, and they were just giggling. They're really trying to stop laughing, take it all seriously, because they love it when things go wrong. Because there's this sort of apocryphal saying that all members of the royal family think that every place they go to smells of paint, because everyone gets so stressed and worried when they get a royal visit. Everything has to look amazing, so everything gets a paint job.
Do you know what I thought would be a weird thing for the late Queen? Towards the end of her reign, people stopped clapping. Whenever she said anywhere, applause, 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 and people stop clapping. Why? Because they're holding up their phone. And you can't clap if you're holding a phone in one hand. And I wondered if that must have felt a bit weird.
They hated it. I remember a courtier saying to me that they hated the rise of mobile phones. They didn't like being filmed all the time because, exactly as you say, it got in the way of the interaction. But also, if you're holding up a phone, not only can you not clap, you can't talk to the member of the royal family, and getting snapped and papped all the time. They hated it.
For their security detail, everyone in a crowd holding up an arm might be quite an uneasy.
Threatening.
Well, in a way, it might be sort of tricky for them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the police protection officers, the PPOs, are very, very good at sort of spotting, they call it, spotting the crowd and making sure that, but there's only, intelligence will only take you so far. But I think that meeting members of the public, obviously, is a very important part of the royal job.
No, but here's the romance. How on earth do you go on a date? How on earth do you woo someone if everyone's filming you, everyone knows who you are, you have no private life, and the media's all over you?
Well, I guess the answer to that, wait for it, is you go to university.
Oh,
Because if we look at someone like Lady Louise Windsor, now I know that you know that Lady Louise Mountbatten-Windsor, to give her full title, is the daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. She's currently at university in St Andrews, and she is courting. She's courting a young man, a fellow university student, but because she's at university, a bit like William and Kate before her, same university, St Andrews, it's kind of protected. The press the press leave them alone because they're still in education. Occasionally, if he goes to watch her carriage driving with Sophie, there might be pictures of him. But
carriage driving?
Oh yeah, Louise is taken after her grandpa, Prince Philip.
Kind of a big ask on a first date is, why don't you come and watch me carriage driving, a habit I acquired from my grandfather, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but I think in the modern age, you can probably court in exactly the same way.
What, Hinge?
I reckon you could. Could you have a royal on Hinge? Grindr. Now, there's a thought.
I imagine you'd do it through a pseudonym, wouldn't you? You wouldn't have a real identity. Or perhaps you would, I don't know.
Well, Harry used to be on Facebook.
As himself?
Under a pseudonym. In fact, funny story, actually from your neck of the woods. Harry used to be on Facebook under the name of Spike Wells. And there's actually quite a famous jazz musician called Spike Wells from the Brighton Lewis area. And he had to send a cease and desist letter to Kensington Palace to say, will you please tell Prince Harry to stop impersonating me, because this is actually my name, and stop impersonating me on Facebook.
But I mean, when I talk to my nephews and nieces and younger people, they're all dating on apps now, right? But pictures and biographies and describe yourself in a sentence sort of thing. How do you do that if you are Lady XYZ or the Duke of...
Well, I suppose
ABC?
Harry managed it. Prince Harry managed it, didn't he, with Meghan Markle, because he saw her on Instagram. Famously, he tells the story himself that he saw her. They never revealed the friend, but I think it was Violet von Westerholtz.
So somebody said, "Oh, there's a blind."
She was with Violet. There's this filter that you can use on Instagram where you can put like little dog ears. I mean, I know it all sounds. I'm with you. Harry was flicking through his mate's Instagram, and there was Meghan and Violet with the dog ears, and he was like, "Who is that?
Who's that lovely woman with the ears of a dog?"
Yeah, exactly. And then he got Meghan's number and pursued her with texts for dates. So actually, that's a very modern way, isn't it?
If a royal does start dating, how long before you, in your professional life, get to hear about it?
Generally speaking, not long. I mean, with Harry, it was about 3 months. They met in the July, and then it was Halloween when the story broke about him and Meghan. Obviously, with William, and not just Catherine, who he dated at St Andrews, he'd had a couple of earlier girlfriends. They weren't really written about, partly because he was at university and so kind of protected. With Kate, it was a skiing holiday that he had gone on with her, and they were pictured together, which was why kind of the hairs were set running. So I think it kind of depends. I mean, but I guess my inference to your question is that they don't have long, do they?
No.
When it's still quite private, and it's really hard. I think it must be incredibly hard to try and conduct a relationship in the full glare of the public gaze.
And also, even if you're trying to keep it quiet, how very difficult to do that too, because a cab driver or somebody in a shop or a travel agent could say, "Oh, that's interesting," and could phone you up, right?
They could, yeah, definitely. I mean, we did get tip-offs when like Harry and Meghan used to go to the theatre, and an actress, she liked to go and see shows when they were still living in London. We used to get tip-offs, members of the public. They used to get pictures taken, mobile phone pictures put on social media. Better journalists than me were brilliant at super sleuthing, finding all these things. And so I think it means, I mean, William and Kate still can go on dates, for instance, but
with each other.
And indeed, they take the children. I mean, I think recently Kate...
Date
night, yeah.
Really?
They're on date nights. Yeah, William and Kate, actually, there's a local pub near their Anma Hall home in Norfolk. And they used to have, when they were still living in Norfolk and the kids were really small, I think it was every Tuesday night or every Thursday night, they used to go there for date night, just the two of them, just to kind of, and the locals just completely left them alone.
Packet of crisps, game of dominoes.
Yeah, no, genuinely, sometimes they didn't even have food. They would just go and he'd have a pint of cider or a pint of beer. She'd have a small white wine, just to kind of have a chat, be normal.
It's funny when you do hear about the times when they were happiest in their lives, especially their married lives. It's before they were, like with William and Catherine, it was when they were in Anglesey, wasn't it? When you're kind of not in the middle of things and not having to do all that heavy lifting.
No, absolutely. I think that's maybe when they felt they could be the most real.
And the Queen and Prince Philip when they were first married.
In Malta, yeah. If you want to continue catching up with the royals, hopefully you're watching this on a Thursday. We come out every Thursday on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, you can watch us on Saturday on 5 or stream us on 5. Now,
yes,
Richard.
Yes,
I've got a question for you.
I'm excited. I love a question.
I know you do. You'll probably know the answer. How many royal weddings have there been in Westminster Abbey?
Oh, millions, I'd have thought.
We'll tell you after the break. I asked the lovely Richard how many royal weddings he thought there'd been at Westminster Abbey. Now, did you know the answer?
Well,
did you?
Well, I thought it must be dozens. I did say millions for rest, but it must be dozens and dozens over the centuries.
Well, this surprised me. 16.
Really?
16 royal weddings at Westminster Abbey. I guess because some of the biggies, like Charles and Diana, got married at St Paul's, And actually, I think if you go back into the kind of history books, a lot of weddings were not the big royal spectacle that they are now. They were quite small affairs. Maybe it's St James's Palace or...
Yeah, I mean, I think in the older you would have... It's like royal baptisms tend to be done at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, well, I mean, not at... Well, at home, but in a place of worship at home.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I guess in the old, when you were doing dynastic marriage, I mean, sometimes they had proxies, didn't they, stand in for it?
Yeah.
Because they were, I don't know, 8 years old and in Bohemia.
Harry and Meghan's, we went to St George's. They got married in Windsor Castle and St George's Chapel. And I remember I was actually in Windsor Great Park when I got the communique saying that there were going to be no journalists actually in St George's Chapel. Now, for William and Kate's wedding, we were in Westminster Abbey.
Sort of press gallery.
Yeah, we're kind of up in the gods or like right at the back, but there, and we could, there were screens and stuff, and we could see it. But Harry, he was so angry with all of us, he banned us from the chapel. In fact, we had to fight really hard just to have one member from the press association actually in the chapel, and we were in the Undercroft in the upper ward in Windsor Castle watching it all on a TV screen.
All that way.
It was quite a stressful day, but a nice day.
Well, I mean, royal weddings are complicated things, aren't they? Because it's not just
about love.
No.
It's not just about the love.
Do you have a favourite complicated royal wedding? Or a royal wedding that didn't happen because it all got kind of thwarted for dynastic reasons or legal reasons?
Well, I always enjoy learning and reading about the Virgin Queen, Elizabeth I.
Everyone's favourite monarch.
Everyone's favourite monarch. Well, not everyone's favourite monarch, but I mean, she's a behemoth, isn't she, of history? And she famously was the Virgin Queen. She never got married, but she had a lifelong friendship with Robert Dudley, but she never got married. Now, she probably couldn't have married Dudley. I think she made him the Earl of Leicester. I think she created him as the Earl of Leicester, but even so, he wasn't royal.
Well, that would have given him a reason to be around. Being cool.
Well, exactly, because she ennobled him. But really, as a queen regnant, she had to make a political and dynastic marriage. But of course, had she married Archduke Ferdinand or like one of the Habsburgs, or had she married whomever else might have been on the political scene, then that would have put someone else's nose out of joint. So if she'd have made a decision to marry, that might have put the French king's nose out of joint or the Scottish king's. So by not marrying, she kept everyone on their toes.
And an added complication, of course, would be about a time of huge religious turbulence.
Yeah.
Was England going to be a Catholic country, had been under Mary, returned to the old management, as it were, or was it going to be a Protestant country? And that took a while to settle down in her reign. But, there was a high-stakes game in those days, wasn't it? There's a lovely poem by Ursula Fanthorpe in which she talks about Tudor statesmen all being portrayed with big ruffs on as kind of neck protectors because they all kind of
keep your head on.
Keep your neck
keep your neck protected.
Well protected,
But I think that's the thing. But I think Elizabeth I was very canny because she used her virginity and her femininity more adroitly by not getting married. And I personally, I mean, I guess we'll never know. I'm sure there are greater scholars than me, certainly, definitely, who have considered the question of whether she ever consummated a relationship. But it would have been very, very risky. It would have been very risky for Elizabeth I to do so because, of course, if you bore a child outside marriage, it was illegitimate. And it didn't really matter whether you're the monarch or no, because Henry VIII had an illegitimate son, Henry Fitzsimmons, but he was obviously not allowed anywhere near the throne. And it made you, if you're an illegitimate child, more likely to be killed.
And let us not forget, Elizabeth I's mother was Anne Boleyn.
Yeah.
And she discovered that the accusation of having messed around when she was married to King Henry VIII was a very costly thing.
I am not a Tudor historian, but I personally don't think she was unfaithful to Henry.
No, I think it's highly unlikely, but that wasn't the point.
That's not the point. She was
to be
surplus to requirements because he'd moved on to Jane Seymour.
Yeah, and I think also with Henry VIII, there's a speculation that he had a jousting accident, hadn't he, and that his mental health was badly affected by it. He'd got into a habit then of wives were expedient. Anne Boleyn Ended up getting beheaded.
Yeah.
And wasn't the only one.
No. Catherine Howard.
Yeah. I mean, in our own days, there have been people who've been had to choose, in a very romantic way of putting it, between love and duty. Princess Margaret, the late Queen's sister, and Group Captain Peter Teller, who was an equerry, I think, wasn't he?
He was, yes,
and
to her
she
father.
fell in love with a dashing airman. And they had an affair. She famously brushed a piece of lint from his tunic outside Westminster Abbey or something, didn't she?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's how the press cottoned on. Cottoned on. Do you see what I did there? But unfortunately for Margaret, he was divorced. And of course, in the 1950s, it was completely unconscionable for a royal princess to marry a divorcee. We have to put that, as we said earlier, we have to put that in the context, obviously, of Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson. He wasn't allowed to marry a divorcee, so then you couldn't have his niece.
It also would require the consent of the Queen, and the Queen was the supreme governor of the Church of England, which at that time didn't allow people to remarry divorcees. So you can see that was, if you're going to do that, then you need to walk away from your royal life.
The narrative is that she was forbidden by the Queen, but I personally understood that actually she was given the choice to effectively renounce her titles and crucially the money.
Yeah.
And she said no.
My sense of Princess Margaret was that she wasn't someone who was really designed for a life that was less than 5-star.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's a good description, a bit like the prince formerly known as Andrew.
Well, I don't know. I couldn't possibly comment. But of course, Princess Margaret then went on to marry Anthony Armstrong-Jones, later Lord Snowdon, and unfortunately that marriage didn't turn out so well.
No. 1952 is only 70 years ago, which in the grand scheme of things is quite a short space of time. But there was absolutely no problem with Prince Harry marrying a divorcee, because of course Meghan was divorced from her first husband. And it's easy, I think, to forget how seminal it was for the late Queen Elizabeth, about a British member of the royal family marrying an American divorcee. And if it did sort of give her any trigger warnings, the late Queen, she certainly didn't show it.
I guess a lot had happened as we kind of gradually got used to the idea of Prince Charles as he was then and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall as she was then. As that relationship became more normalised, then you thought, oh, well, this can work.
And also, I think one of the roles of the royal family is to reflect society and culture at the time, at our time, whatever that time may be. And obviously now, quite rightly, we're a very inclusive society. The Church of England has changed a lot. I could definitely see a member of the royal family coming out publicly as gay, and it'd be absolutely fine. No one would bat an eyelid.
But could you imagine a sort of, well, you can't do it at the moment because the Church of England rules don't permit, but a sort of same-sex marriage in St George's Chapel, Windsor, one day.
That'd be lovely. That really would be, times changing. William and Catherine's relationship was allowed quite a lot of privacy at the start when they were at St Andrews, but obviously when they left university, that was a bit more tricky. And actually, I remember going to a nightclub in Fulham, where I know those were the days.
All the racy places.
Those were the days, Richard, just off the King's Road. And it was a basement, subterranean nightclub where a bottle of champagne was probably only at that point about 30 quid. But I remember a newly single Prince William was at this nightclub. And I and a very foxy friend managed to talk our way into the nightclub. And it was full of kind of Blues and Royals officers. William was in the army at this point, and he'd just split up from Catherine. They had left university. Someone said he was at the club, and I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. I was there with my foxy friend, and we were getting bought drinks left, right, and centre, which was lovely. Oh, those were the days. Anyway, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly, I don't know about you, but I go to bed, I'm in bed by 9 p.m. these days, but so those were the days. Anyway, there was a really big song at the time, 50 Cent, In Da Club. And suddenly there was this kind of like rush of energy and air, and a very tall, good-looking man with a full head of blonde hair erupted onto the dance floor and started jumping up and down to 50 Cent In Da Club and literally rocking the nightclub. And it was Prince William. And so everyone all the girls were like, oh, and all the guys were like, oh my goodness, because he'd been in a private bit, I think, drinking with mates. But what was so extraordinary, it was quite funny watching Prince William jump up and down to Inda Club. But what was so funny?
Move?
Pardon?
Can he move?
Yeah, the boy can dance. Yeah, I was quite impressed actually. He had some sense of rhythm. But what was quite funny after was that it was just dance music, cheesy dance. And then at one point, quite a few people on the dance floor started doing ballroom dancing to the club hits of the time.
That's so weird.
And my slightly alcohol-addled memory tells me that it was called windmilling. I don't know, might have, other recollections may vary, but that was my memory of clubbing Prince William. And then my mate who I was with, he started dancing with her, and I slightly drunkenly was taking some pictures, and then the police protection officer came and had a word with me and said, "Could I stop, please?" I was like, "Yeah, of course."
Did he want you to delete those pictures?
I think he was just really nice about it and just said, "Can you just stop?"
Right.
I didn't delete them.
Okay, show me next week.
I'll read them next week. Yeah.
Excellent. Is that the only time you've danced with a royal?
It's not the only time.
Emily.
I know. I love a bit of dancing. I've done a little dance with the king. Now he can dance, King Charles. Yeah, and he loves music.
Yeah.
He loves music. Have you ever danced with a royal?
I don't think I have, no. No, well, they would. If I tried to, they'd run a mile. I'd probably be shot by the close protection squad.
No, you wouldn't. In fact, Camilla loves Strictly.
Well, yes. Well, the Queen watched Strictly too, I was told, and voted.
There was a story, and I was sad actually, and apparently it was going to happen, I think, but COVID got in the way. They were going to host an edition of Strictly at Buckingham Palace.
Really?
Yes, in the ballroom, and that would have been brilliant. I mean, forget Blackpool. The ballroom of Buckingham Palace.
One of those things you can see, I can just see how that would get derailed before the final green light. Great idea, but you're just something, no, maybe not.
Really?
Maybe not.
Why would it get derailed? Security? Or just, would they think it's a bit
Craig
naff?
Revel Horwood just did a naught and it looked like a judgment on the monarchy rather than a judgment on a dance. I don't know. All that stuff needs to be, well, you're too young to remember the It's a Royal Knockout fiasco, but I remember that. Time for a break now, but before we do, here is your question. And it's this. In medieval times, how would a monarch know if a lady was interested in him?
Oh, not the other way around.
No. Okay. This is lady on king.
Wanted to show her favour. Okay.
Yeah.
Back after this.
Welcome back to Catching Up with the Royals. And the question we left you was, how would a lady in medieval or indeed early modern Europe express a desire and interest, a romantic, erotic, sexual interest in monarch? Well, the token of the glove. She would give the monarch a glove, and that would be a sort of come hither gesture. Not a subtle one, really, is it? I mean,
No.
whack off your glove, and rather it might be misinterpreted as throwing down a gauntlet.
Yes,
and be seen as
exactly.
and
And also, surely, if you're in the court and there's a single heir prince, or the king is single, I mean, he can, surely you don't have to express your interest, isn't it up to him?
Maybe the king isn't single.
Oh.
You see, maybe you would be a mistress of the king. Well, it's time for our viewer questions, so let's see what's been popped in the royal box this week.
The question is, Simon emails in to royals@spirit-studios.com. Please do email. And says, do the royals ever get to cook their own food? And if so, how do they determine who gets a private chef or not? Are they able to make requests?
Well, I think they do, because I think what you do want sometimes is to have just I found that some people who live that kind of life, they have the sort of big dining room stuff and the big kitchen and the people who cook the food, but they tend to have a private kitchen, a private dining room too, where you could just have a night in and watch telly.
Yeah, actually, I think the royals can be just as normal as us. I mean, I remember that Harry used to send out for takeaway when he lived at Kensington Palace. He used to get he would order the takeaway, and then he'd get his PPOs, police protection officers, to go and pick it up.
Oh, fun job for them, eh?
And also,
how many times could you go to Nando's in a week?
Well, I know. And when I mean, probably 7 nights. If you're Prince Harry. Actually,
it is Nando's, isn't it?
It is Nando's.
Or maybe he'd be into some. Maybe
yeah, he liked burgers as well. Oh no, I tell you what, his favourite. There's a posh sandwich shop near Buckingham Palace, and one of the members of staff told me that Harry's favourite sandwich was like a cheese and ham double kind of croque monsieur type thing. I mean, calorie central.
A young lad full of beans.
Full of beans, running around. I'm not sure his 40-year-old self could quite cope with the California lifestyle
it's probably sushi now, isn't it? Well, that's all they eat in California.
Yeah, sushi.
Yeah, sushi.
And
avocado. Yeah.
I have seen Harry in a supermarket.
What, doing shopping?
Actually, yes. In the Waitrose on Kensington High Street. I actually saw him doing his own shopping. And he used to quite like doing his own shopping. Other people go, oh my goodness, it's Prince Harry. And then you see them sort of thinking, should I go and talk to them? Can I go and ask for an autograph? But there's always one or two police protection officers just to kind of act as a bit of a barrier.
I saw Queen Margaret of Denmark browsing in a bookshop.
Did you?
Yeah.
Whereabouts, in the UK or in Denmark?
Hatchards in Piccadilly. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Having a good old look at the books. Had a lady in waiting with her, I think. Or maybe it was an unlikely looking security guard. I don't know.
Okay, but going back to royals and cooking, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and I have talked cooking in India. We were in Bhutan, amazing country. Richard, I don't know if you've been.
I'd love to go.
You'd love it. Himalayan kingdom, landlocked. It was quite scary. Only 7 pilots in the world could fly us in. But I kind of figured that we were on a plane with William and Kate, and I figured that, hopefully we should be quite safe. William wasn't flying, so that was probably a good thing. Sorry, William. Your flying is brilliant, really. Anyway, we were in Bhutan, and Kate and I were talking about, she really likes Indian food. So she cooks Indian food from scratch, but she did admit to me that occasionally she does like an Indian takeaway.
Ooh. I bet they go to like posh one like Dishoom though, rather than the Star of Bengal around the corner. I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a room for both.
But then if you are, I can't imagine Princess Margaret would have known how to boil an egg. So for that kind of royal, if you're living in Kensington Palace, wherever it might be, would there just be a sort of chef on call, do you think, if you wanted to?
Yes. So all members of the royal family have got people who cook for them. The king has got 22 members of chefs, 22 chefs, and most of whom follow him around from Windsor to Clarence House to Burke Hall to Sandringham.
So he'll have his hand-picked team, his brigade.
And some of them stay permanently. Buckingham Palace is still effectively closed for business because we're very close to the end of this 10-year refurbishment of BP. So some of them have stayed at Windsor because that's where the state banquets are. That's where Charles spends quite a lot of his time. That's where entertaining is. That's where a lot of investitures are now, in Windsor. And those members of staff who stay will do cooking for William and Catherine, for instance. Harry and Meghan used to get food sent down from the Windsor Castle kitchens on the little golf buggies.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But if you had a foodie royal and you had a sort of favourite chef, you'd want that chef to kind of go around with you, wouldn't you? It might be a tough job for the chef to keep up with the customer.
It is, but I think what used to happen, I know one of the late Queen's chefs, I think he lives in America now, but he's talked a lot about every week he would create a list of menus for the whole week, taking into account, whether it's a state dinner or whether they were going out or whatever, a list of meals for the whole week, and then she would sign it off. And the king does the same. He has a list of what he's going to be eating for the whole week, and he says, yes, no, can I have this instead, etc., etc. And with William and Catherine, she likes to cook, as I said, and also she likes to bake with the children. And I think she wants to make sure that the children all 3 of them can cook. It's that fine line, isn't it, between bringing up your children as normal human beings and also not wanting them to become sort of too entitled.
I'd quite like my own chef, actually.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
The Goring Hotel in London together, they have on the menu eggs drum kimbo, which was the Queen Mother's favourite thing. And it happened because she stayed an extra day somewhere and there was nothing in the kitchen. The chef made up this dish and it was a triumph. And I've had it. It's absolutely delicious.
I spent my wedding night at the Goring.
Did you have eggs drum kimbo?
And I had eggs drum kimbo the next day.
Delicious, don't you think?
Yummy.
Yeah.
So good. That's all we got time for today. So that's it, I'm afraid, from the show that never complains, but always explains. And if you've got any questions, please do email in to royals@spirit-studios.com. And don't forget, we're out every Thursday on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We're on 5 on Saturdays, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, Catching Up with the Royals. Please do comment. Richard and I read every one. that's all for this week. Goodbye.
Bye.